Ladies, let me tell you something that might sound a little crazy at first, but hear me out. If a man truly loves you, sometimes he disappears. Now I know what you're thinking. That don't make sense. Why would a man who loves me walk away? But let me explain this from a man's perspective. A real man, a man with integrity, vision, and a future in his heart, doesn't love with words alone. He loves with action. And when that kind of man disappears, it's not rejection, it's not abandonment, it's preparation. See, women love in the present. You can love a man even when he's struggling. You see potential. You see what heck can become. You nurture. That's your nature. But men are wired differently. We're wired to provide. We're wired to protect. We're wired to produce. And when a man feels like he can't do those things for the woman he loves, that pressure hits his soul. When he meets a woman who stirs something real in him, something deeper than attraction, he doesn't just see a girlfriend. He sees a wife. He sees a future. He sees family. And in that moment, he also sees everything he isn't yet. He sees the money that's not right, the career that's unstable, the discipline he hasn't mastered. And he looks at himself and says, man, I've got work to do. That's where the disappearing act comes in. He's not ghosting you. He's grinding. He's not playing games. He's building. He steps back because he doesn't want to waste your time while he's only half the man he knows he needs to be. That's not weakness. That's strength. That's discipline. That's vision. A man with real love in his heart can't stand the idea of letting the woman he loves see him unprepared. That's pride. That's ego. That's manhood all wrapped into one. Now you might say, if he really loved me, he'd let me in and we'd build together. That's how you think. That's not how he's wired. Most men try to hold on to the relationship while fixing themselves and end up failing at both. A real one makes the hard choice. He pauses the relationship, he focuses, he gets his money right, his mind right, his spirit right, because he knows bringing you into chaos will only hurt you. And hurting you is the one thing he refuses to do. Let me tell you a quick story. I knew a young man, smart, driven, but struggling. He met a woman who had everything: class, ambition, heart, faith. From the start, he knew this is the one, but his bank account didn't match his dreams. His confidence was shaky. His career was uncertain. So he made a tough decision. He disappeared. For 2 years, he worked 2 jobs, fixed his credit, built a small business, got focused. Then one day, he came back, knocked on her door and said, "I'm ready now." She said yes. Today they're married, 2 kids, thriving. He disappeared to prepare and came back to commit. Now let me be clear, some men disappear because they're players. Some disappear because they're immature, inconsistent, or confused. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the man who leaves not to play, but to prepare. Don't confuse silence with absence. Don't mistake distance for disinterest. Sometimes a man loves you so much, he steps back to make sure when he steps forward again, he's exactly what you prayed for. And this isn't just about him, it's about you too. While he's growing, it's your time to elevate as well. Because when 2 people meet again as better versions of themselves, that reunion is powerful. So remember this, silence doesn't always mean he doesn't care. Not every quiet man is playing games. There's a difference between a man who goes silent to manipulate you and a man who goes silent because he's overwhelmed, focused, or trying to. Become better. Men are problem solvers. When life gets heavy, money, work, pressure, we don't vent, we retreat. That silence isn't cold. It's us figuring things out. Sometimes he's quiet because he's scared. Scared he's fallen too hard. Scared he's not enough. Scared you'll see the cracks he hasn't fixed yet. And instead of saying all that, he shuts down, not because he doesn't care, but because he cares too much. So sit with that. If this message spoke to you, subscribe to the channel Harvey's World for more real conversations like this. And tell me in the comments, which country are you watching from? I want to see where the family is tuning in from. Stay blessed, stay growing. And remember, sometimes silence is part of the journey, not I'm walking away. Let me give you a real world example. I had a brother come up to me one time after a show. He said, "Steve, I love this woman. She's everything. But when my business started falling apart, I stopped talking to her. I felt a failure. I couldn't look her in the eye and say I was struggling, so I disappeared. Not because I wanted to hurt her, but because I didn't know how to be a man. In that moment, I felt like I let her down. That's how men think they measure their value by what they can do for you, not just how they feel about you. So when they go silent, it's not always about pulling away emotionally. It's about pulling themselves together mentally. Because real men, when they love, they want to lead. They want to show up strong. And when they don't feel strong, sometimes they step back until they do. But here's what I need y'all to understand. Silence is a language. And just like any language, it takes discernment to understand it. Some silence is toxic, designed to confuse and control. Some silence is sacred, designed to give space and clarity. You've got to know the difference. You've got to look at the pattern, not just the pause. If he's consistent, shows up, is honest with you, and then suddenly gets quiet when something V hits his life, that's not disinterest, that's internal conflict. That's a man processing. Now, ladies, I ain't saying you should wait forever. I ain't saying tolerate being ignored or disrespected. No, ma'am, I'm saying pay attention, ask once, communicate how you feel. And if he's the right kind of man, even if he's not ready to open up, he'll let you know, I just need a little time. And then it's on you to decide if that silence is something you can sit with or something you need to step away from, but never assume that silence means he stopped caring. Real love ain't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, sometimes it's invisible, but it's still there. Let me say this too. Sometimes a man's silence is not just about him, it's about you too. It's giving you time to reflect, to ask yourself if you're ready, if you're patient enough, if you trust the bond beyond the noise, because strong relationships aren't built just on conversation. They're built on understanding. And if you can't sit through the silence, you might miss the comeback. So don't rush to conclusions. Don't let insecurity write stories. That ain't true if he went quiet. Look at who he's been. Look at how he's shown up. Look at what he's facing. Sometimes the loudest love is found in the quietest moments. And sometimes the man who's silent today is the man who's building himself for you tomorrow. Let's talk about something y'all don't hear enough. Time apart can be a test of intentions. That's right. I know everybody wants the fairy tale. Two people meet, fall in love, and ride off into the sunset without a hiccup. But real life don't work like that. Sometimes love has to go through something. Sometimes space is required, and what happens in that space? That's where the truth shows up. See when a man disappears, whether it's for a few days, a few weeks, or a few months. You can learn a whole lot, not just about him, but about the relationship. Because time and distance have a funny way of peeling back the layers and revealing what's real if he disappears and leaves. Or checks back in, never reaches out, never returns. He was never really in it to begin with. He wasn't yours. He was just passing through your life. And I know that's hard to accept, but it's the truth. Sometimes that silence is the closure. That space, that's your answer. But if he disappears, works on himself, handles his business, and then comes back with clarity, intention, and plan, baby, that man wasn't playing. He was preparing. There's a difference between a man who falls off and a man who steps back. One disappears to avoid commitment. The other disappears to become someone worth committing to. And the only way you can tell the difference is time. Let me tell you something about men. We may not always say what we feel, but we always show it. Eventually, you just got to give it time to unfold, because a man who's serious about you, even if he disappears for a season, will come back around. Why? Because when a man sees a woman as his person, he can't rest until he feels like he's earned her. He might pull away because he's not ready, but he won't stay gone. If he truly loves you that time apart, that's when the test begins. It tests how much he's willing to grow. It tests whether he's coming back better or if he's moving on. And it tests you too, how you respond in that space. Says a lot. Will you chase? Will you panic? Will you sit in your worth and wait for what aligns with your value? Or will you settle for crumbs because you're afraid of being alone? Let me give you a real example. I know this woman, smart, beautiful, independent. She met a man who swept her off her feet. They were building something strong. But just as things started to get deep, he pulled back. He said, I need to get my life together before I can really be what you need. Now, she could have taken that personal. She could have begged, cried, or waited by the phone. But no, she said, do what you got to do. I'll be over here becoming the best version of myself, too. And she meant it. She didn't pause her life. She kept growing, kept low, and kept leveling. 6 months later, that man came back, not just with words, but with actions. He said, I worked on myself because I couldn't stop thinking about what we had, and now I'm ready. And she could see the change. She didn't have to guess, didn't have to wonder, because the time apart told her everything she needed to know. That's what I want y'all to understand. If he disappears, don't chase him, watch him, pay attention to what he does with the time. Does he grow? Does he come back with purpose? Or does he vanish into thin air and resurface like nothing happened? Because that tells you what he really feels about you. A man's effort when you're not around speaks louder than anything he said when he was by your side. And let me be clear, this ain't just about him changing. It's about whether y'all align after the change, because sometimes people grow in different directions. And that's okay too. Not every separation leads back to union. Some are just meant to teach you what you truly deserve. Some are meant to show you, not to tolerate the next time around, because peace, clarity, and self-respect, that's priceless. And no man, no matter how charming his word, you losing that. But when it's real, when it's rooted in love and growth, that time apart won't weaken the connection, it'll strengthen it. That distance won't cause division, it'll create direction. You'll come back together, not because you need each other, but because you chose each other, and that's the kind of love that lasts. So don't fear the space, don't fear the silence, don't fear the pause. It's all part of the process. What's meant for you can never miss you. And if he's the man for you, he'll use that time apart, not to forget you, but to become the man who never lets you go again. Let me break something down for you that might just save your heart. You are not meant to fix him. That's not your job. You ain't his therapist, you ain't his mother, and you sure ain't his construction crew. You're not here to build a man from broken pieces. You're here to be a whole. Woman ready to receive the love of a whole man, period. See, a lot of women fall in love with potential. You see what he could be, what he might become, what's inside him. And that's beautiful. Y'all have this gift of vision and nurturing, but sometimes that gift turns into a curse. When you keep pouring yourself into someone who hasn't even decided to pick up his own tools, you start trying to fix him, guide him, motivate him, heal him, while he just sits there receiving all of that love without lifting a finger to match it. Let me tell you something, real men don't want to be fixed. They want to be respected. And the ones who need fixing usually don't even know they're broken, or they do, and they're comfortable staying that way. As long as you keep doing all the work, that's not love, that's emotional labor, that's spiritual exhaustion, that's you draining yourself, trying to be everything to a man who's giving you nothing but stress and confusion in return. And let me tell you why that happens, because society has told women that being ride or die means staying while he's lying, cheating, broke, lazy, disrespectful, and confused, hoping that one day he'll wake up and appreciate you. They sold you the struggle love fantasy. They told you loyalty means holding a man down even when he ain't trying to get up. That's a lie. That's not loyalty. That's self-betrayal. A real man doesn't let you carry the relationship on your back while he coasts. A real man brings something to the table, and not just promises and potential, but consistency, effort, and growth. Now, let me flip this and make it plain. You can inspire a man, you can motivate him, uplift him, support him, but you can't create him. That work is his and his alone. If he doesn't want it for himself, there's nothing you can do to make him change. You can pray over him, cry for him, show up for him, and still, if he's not ready, it won't matter, because change only happens when someone is sick of their own mess, not when someone else is tired of it for them. You got to let that man take accountability for his own life. Let him face the consequences of his choices. Let him grow up and figure it out. Stop jumping in to save him every time he falls. Some men will never learn how to stand up straight because they know you'll be there every time to lift them up. And what happens, you start to resent him. You start to feel alone in a relationship that's supposed to be a partnership. You start wondering why you're exhausted, anxious, and unfulfilled, and it's because you've taken on a job that was never yours to begin with. And here's the kicker: while you're over there trying to fix this man, grow this man, guide this man, there's a whole world of men out there who've already done the work. Men who know who they are, men who don't need saving, just love, but you're too busy playing Savior to see the man who's actually ready to meet you at your level. That's the trap. That's how you miss your blessing, by being too committed to a burden. Let me give you a real story. There was a woman Anu had a good heart, smart, driven, beautiful. She got with this man who had charm, had dreams, but no drive. And she thought, if I just love him hard enough, he'll change. She paid his bills. She helped him start a business. She stood by him through confusion, instability, broken promises, and unfinished dreams. She believed in him when he didn't believe in himself. She defended him when people warned her. She carried him when he was tired of carrying himself. And what did he do? He cheated. He lied. And when she finally gathered the strength to walk away after giving her time, her money, her heart, he looked her in the eyes and said, I didn't ask you to do all that. And as painful as that sentence was, he was right. Not because she was wrong for loving, not because she was foolish, but because she chose to carry a load he never asked her to carry. And more importantly, never intended to pick up himself. That wasn't her fault. Her heart was pure. Her intentions were good. She meant well, but it was a hard lesson. Just because you can help someone doesn't mean you should. See, love has been romanticized into sacrifice without boundaries. Women have been taught that loyalty means endurance, that love means staying through chaos, that strength means suffering silently while hoping one day it will all be worth it. But let me tell you something that will set you free. Your value is not measured by how much pain you can survive for a man who refuses to rise. There's a difference between standing by a man and standing in his way. There's a difference between support and substitution. And too many women cross that line without even realizing it. You see a man with potential. You see his heart. You see what he could become. But potential is not a promise. And love is not a construction project. You deserve a man who is already doing the work. Not perfect, but progressing. Not finished, but faithful to the process. A man who is honest about his flaws and disciple. End enough to work on them. A man who doesn't expect you to fix him, but appreciates your support as he fixes himself. That's the difference. That's the standard. But too many women confuse love with labor. They think if I help him get there, he'll appreciate me. They think if I sacrifice now, he'll show up later. They think once he makes it, he'll remember who was there. And sometimes that happens, but far too often it doesn't. Because when you build a man who never learned how to build himself, you don't become his partner. You become his provider, his therapist, his safety net. And when he finally stands up, he doesn't see you as the prize. He sees you as part of the struggle he escaped. That's a painful truth, but it's a necessary one. Stop mistaking struggle for strength. Stop believing loyalty means suffering. Stop thinking love requires you to lose yourself. You are not his project. You are not his plan B. You are not his emotional bandage. You are a woman woe. Fire of partnership, not a patient to manage. Let me say this clearly because somebody needs to hear it. If a man needs you to rescue him, he is not ready to lead you. And that doesn't make him a bad man. It makes him an unfinished one. But unfinished men should not be dating women who are ready for stability, peace, and purpose. There's nothing romantic about carrying a grown man on your back while he figures out who he wants to be. Love is not about proving how much you can endure. Love is about mutual effort, shared responsibility, and aligned growth. A healthy man doesn't look for a woman to save him. He looks for a woman to walk beside him. And here's where a lot of women get stuck because your heart is big. You don't just love with emotion, you love with action. You help, you nurture, you give. And those are beautiful qualities when they're given to the right man. But in the wrong hands, your kindness becomes currency. Your loyalty becomes leverage. Your love becomes labor. And then one day you wake up exhausted, resentful, and confused, wondering how you gave so much and received so little. That's not love, that's depletion. And no woman was put on this earth to be drained by a man who refuses to heal. Let me tell you something important. A man who truly loves you will not let you carry what is his responsibility. He won't let you pay his bills while he avoids accountability. He won't let you fix his credit while he ignores discipline. He won't let you heal his trauma while he refuses therapy, reflection, or growth. Because a man who is ready for love is already doing the work. He may still be on the journey, but he's moving forward on his own 2 feet. He doesn't say, help me become a man. He says, I'm becoming one and I'd like you by my side. That's the difference. When a man is truly ready for love, he won't hand you a mess. He'll hand you effort, consistency, stability, leadership, protection, peace. He'll be proud to say, I worked for this. I became the man who deserves this kind of woman. And that pride isn't ego, it's responsibility, because real men don't want to be saved. They want to be respected. And respect comes from doing the work when nobody is watching. So if you ever find yourself over-giving, over-functioning, over-explaining, pause, ask yourself, is he building or am I carrying? Is he growing or am I compensating? Is this partnership or is this survival? Love should not feel like a burden you're afraid to put down. And let me be very clear about this part. Walking away from a man who isn't ready does not mean you failed. It means you chose yourself. It means you stopped trying to be the hero in a story that was never yours to write. You are not here to teach a grown man how to value you. The right man will already know. You don't need to convince him. You don't need to rescue him. You don't need to bleed for him. The right man doesn't need you to build him. He needs you to build with him, side by side, with mutual effort, with shared vision, with peace, not chaos. So stand in your worth, let him do his work, and stop apologizing for having standards that protect your future. Because the woman who knows her value doesn't beg, chase, or rescue. She chooses wisely. And when the right man shows up, whole, honest, and working, you won't feel tired. You'll feel safe, you'll feel seen, you'll feel at peace. She didn't fall in love with his situation. She fell in love with his potential. Aisha met Daniel when her life was finally steady. She had a decent job, her own apartment, routine she'd fought hard to build after years of instability. She wasn't rich, but she was secure, and for her, that meant everything. Peace was her luxury. Daniel came into her life quietly. No flashy entrance, no big promises, just conversations that felt easy. He was funny, a tired way, like someone who'd been disappointed enough times to stop pretending things were perfect. He talked about ideas, business ideas, future plans, but always followed them with, I just need one break. That sentence should have been a warning. Instead, it sounded like honesty. He told her about losing his job during the pandemic, about a business that failed before it even really started, about family issues he carried like invisible weights. He didn't ask for pity. He didn't ask for money. He just talked. And Aisha listened. She admired his resilience. She admired that even when life had knocked him down, he still dreamed. She told herself this was what loyalty looked like, standing by someone while they figured it out. At first, everything felt balanced. They split bills when they went out. They encouraged each other. She supported his ideas with words, not actions. That line hadn't been crossed yet. But slowly, so slowly she didn't notice, things shifted. Daniel started coming over more often, then staying longer, then staying a night, then staying days. Eventually, he was practically living there, though neither of them said it out loud. When his phone got cut off, she added him to her plan. When he gets back on his feet, she thought. When his car broke down, she loaned him money, temporary, she told herself. When he said he wanted to start a small online business, but needed help with startup costs, she hesitated, then said yes, not because he demanded it, because she believed in him. That's how it always starts. She didn't feel used, she felt needed. And being needed can feel a lot like being loved, until it doesn't. At first, Daniel was grateful, overly grateful. He cooked dinners, cleaned the apartment, talked endlessly about how everything would change once the business took off. He called her his ride or die. That phrase made her proud. Then the gratitude faded, not all at once, just enough that she noticed, then ignored, then explained away. He stopped updating her on the business unless she asked. He spent more time on his phone, less time following through. When she gently brought up timelines or plans, he'd say, "You stressing me out. I already feel enough pressure." So she stopped asking. She told herself support meant patience, Bills started stacking, not hers, theirs. Groceries doubled, electricity climbed. Rent stayed the same, but suddenly felt heavier. She picked up extra shifts. He promised he would too. After this next breakthrough, months passed. The business never really launched. There was always a reason, a delay, a new idea that required more money, more time. And somehow, without realizing when it happened, Aisha had become the engine of both their lives. She woke up tired, went to sleep worried. Still, she defended him. Everyone struggled, she told her friends. He just needs time. But love without boundaries doesn't feel like love forever. It feels like responsibility. T. The first crack came quietly. She found messages on his phone by accident, not explicit, but intimate. Late night conversations with a woman he claimed was just a friend. Compliments, flirting disguised as jokes. When she confronted him, he didn't deny it. He sighed, looked exhausted, said, "I just needed someone to talk to." "You're always stressed." That sentence hurt more than the messages. Because she was stressed, and the stress had his name on it, still she stayed. She told herself it was a rough patch, that once things stabilized, he'd go back to being the man she met. Then came the lie. He said he had a meeting, a potential investor. He asked her for money to prepare, transport, materials, whatever excuse sounded convincing enough. She gave it to him. Later that night, she saw photos online. Daniel at a lounge, same woman from the messages, smiling, drinks in hand. Something in her broke, but quietly, she didn't scream. She didn't throw things. She just felt empty. When she confronted him this time, he exploded, accused her of not trusting him, of holding money over his head, of acting like she owned him. And then he said, I didn't ask you to do all that. The words landed heavy. Because in that moment, clarity hit her harder than anger ever could. He was right. He hadn't asked her to pay his bills. He hadn't asked her to fund his dreams. He hadn't asked her to carry him. She chose to out of love, out of hope, out of the belief that sacrifice would be rewarded. And that realization hurt, but it also freed her. She didn't kick him out that night. She didn't make a dramatic exit. She just started watching, and what she saw was undeniable. A man comfortable receiving, but uncomfortable rising. A man who enjoyed support, but resented accountability. A man who loved being helped, but didn't respect the helper. Within weeks, she asked him to leave, not in anger, in exhaustion. He packed slowly, confused, shocked. "You given up on me?" he asked. "No," she said calmly, "I'm choosing myself." He left angry. Told mutual friends she was heartless, said she abandoned him when he needed her most. For a while, she questioned herself. The apartment felt too quiet. Her bank account felt wounded. Her heart felt bruised. But something else returned, peace. Months passed. She paid off what she could, stopped overworking, rebuilt routines, went to therapy, not because she was broken, but because she wanted to understand why she had overgiven, and she learned something powerful. Helping isn't love when it costs you your dignity. A year later, she ran into Daniel by chance. He looked thinner, tired, still talking about plans, still waiting on a break. He smiled like nothing had happened. "You know," he said, "things would have worked if you just believed a little longer." She smiled politely. "I believed enough," she replied. "I just stopped carrying." She walked away without anger, without regret, because she finally understood the lesson that took her everything to learn. You are not meant to build a man who refuses to build himself. You are not meant to suffer in the name of love. You are not a project manager for someone else's potential. Later, much later, she met someone new. Not perfect, not rich, but responsible. He didn't ask her to save him. He didn't lean on her to survive. He showed up whole, or at least honestly working toward it. And for the first time, love didn't feel heavy. It felt shared. That's the difference. And once you live it, you never go back.